Greetings, YouTube. This is going to be a rough one, so if you don't want to hear about assaults on children involving sexual assault and things like that, you may want to skip this one because this is stuff that's being legally sanctioned by Republicans in Ohio. So what do I mean? We see there are approximately 5 high school trans girls in Ohio, and the Republicans in that state have decided that there needs to be a law specifically aimed at them and any future trans girls that might want to participate in sports in future generations in Ohio. So what have they done? Well, you see, if a girl in high school sports is accused of not being a girl by anyone, say, for example, the parent of the person that came in second place in a competition, and the parent points at the first place winner and says, "That's not a girl." They now have a policy in place for what to do. Now, we're talking about high school students, girls, children, minors, all right? So a doctor will have to do an external examination of the girl's genitalia. And that in of itself is warped and twisted. Really, really warped and twisted. It gets worse. Then they have to do an internal examination of the of the genitalia of the girl. They have to rape the girl because somebody pointed at her and said, "That's not a girl." Then they get to do a blood test to make sure her testosterone levels are within some parameters, even though testosterone levels vary from person to person and over the course of a person's life. And there are men with really low testosterone levels, and there are women with really high testosterone levels who never engage in sports. So who knows where this person's testosterone levels are, and have they done enough studies to prove that the range of testosterone levels? It doesn't fucking matter. They're doing this because they hate trans kids. Then lastly, they want to do a DNA test to make sure that this person is actually XX and not XY, even though it's not XX and XY. It's like this in the real world. It's not as simple as your 4th grade genetics taught you. Talk to an actual researcher and they'll explain that things get very complex when it gets to gender and to biological chromosomes. Very complex. Now, nobody is going to go after any of the boys for this reason. No one's going to point at a boy and say that's not a boy. And then nor are they going to say that it's inappropriate that the really big, tough guys go out for the football team and the kind of otter-shaped people become swimmers and the people with like really good legs for running become, track folks. No one's going to dispute that. But if it's a girl and someone doesn't like that girl, all they have to do is point a finger, bing, and then she has to be raped because someone didn't like her. Because the people in Ohio hate trans people. And they ideally want trans girls not to participate in sports. They would actually be a lot happier if trans girls just didn't exist. If trans people just didn't exist. If they all went into the closet and just became invisible the way they were in the past. Because we've always had trans people. Always had trans people. We've always had gay people and bi people and non-binary people. Always. Forever and ever and ever and ever. As long as we have been a species, these people have existed. But the Republicans have decided that the best method for overwhelming the Democratic Party is to keep throwing evil act after evil act at us in the hopes of keeping us from actually doing anything and making any progress, because they hate progress. And the best thing they can think of is to keep throwing things at us. And the best thing to throw at us, of course, is evil. And that's what they're doing. This is an evil action by the Republicans in Ohio. They want to rape children because they don't like trans girls. I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around something that I can think of right off the top of my head in the 21st century that is more evil than this. I'm coming up short. This is a law aimed at raping children. This is a law at marginalizing people because they're trans. This is a law based on bigotry and discrimination and hatred. And I'm sure that every single person that supports it thinks of themselves as a good Christian. If you think you're a good Christian and you're endorsing the rape of children, you're just wrong. You're not a good Christian. Hell, I'd go so far to say you're not a Christian at all, because Christ would not endorse this. Christ is not pro-rape. I think that's a pretty safe thing to say. And how is it that there are atheists in America that are apparently far better Christians than the people who want to call themselves Christian, because they don't want to put laws into place that rape children? That apparently you don't need a holy book to be moral, that you can be moral without one? That's something that a lot of Christians seem to not understand as well. So I'm not a Christian, but I can tell you right now, I'm a hell of a lot better Christian than the ones in Ohio. And that's kind of sad, that a person who isn't a Christian is better than the Christians. So, yeah, that's what Ohio's doing right now. They're endorsing rape because they hate trans people. And they want to target trans kids because they are the most vulnerable of all trans people in the world.